Steelers fans, the NFL trade deadline is right around the corner, and whether or not the Steelers are going to be buyers or sellers, it looks like that the Steelers are going to be very busy. So if you want all the latest trade rumors, news, updates on the Pittsburgh Steelers, go follow Steelers Talk by Chat Sports right now. Click that big red button. Now, let's get into the show. Here we go, Steeler Nation. My name is Jack Sperry, and this is Steelers Talk. We have a trade rumors video for you today. We got 6 players that we're going to be breaking down. I love these type of videos because we get to problem solve a little bit. I'm tired of talking about all the Steelers' problems this season. I'm ready to fix some or give some potential solutions to some. So let's get right into it. Let's start with looking at what the Steelers have in terms of draft capital next season. Now, you might notice that there's not a whole lot in the later rounds. We have picks. We have our own first-round pick in the first 4 rounds and in the 7th round, and then we have Denver's 7th round, but we don't have any picks in the 5th or 6th round. So it's very possible that we could be sellers here moving forward, trying to get more draft capital, but it's also a possibility that we might be moving to get some players. We're going to go over some players today that the Steelers might look to add in the coming weeks. The first player we're going to talk about today is Isaiah Wynn. Can play either right or left tackle, currently plays for the New England Patriots. And, Wynn reportedly was on the trade block before the season began, so we know he's available. He has played both left tackle and right tackle in his career and could play guard. He's very versatile. And Wynn has $10.43 million left on his base salary. And I do want to note here, the Steelers only have $7.9 million left in cap space for the season, but with the way that the NFL works is that if you make a trade, they do some math, do some dividing, do some multiplying. It's a whole complex situation, but long story short, if we trade for Wynn, we could afford him, but it would pretty much take up the rest of our cap space. Now let's look at the depth chart for the Steelers right now on the offensive line. Got Dan Moore Jr., Dotson, Colets at center, then James Daniels at guard, and then Chukwuma Okorafor at right tackle. If we go and get Isaiah Wynn, it would be at left tackle to replace Dan Moore. And because Okorafor has actually done a pretty darn good job this year, in my opinion, Dan Moore has been atrocious in run blocking this year. So if we're going to go get Wynn, it's going to be left tackle and to be our main run blocker on the left side there. Let's look at his stats throughout his career. He's only given up 2 sacks, only had 7 penalties, so he's very smart. He's very disciplined as a pass blocker and run blocker. And then his PFF pass grade, it's not as good as his run grade, but we would be bringing him in as a run blocker for us because Lord knows we need help at run blocking. So what I'd give up to go get Isaiah Wynn is I would do Chase Claypool and a 4th rounder. We all know that New England isn't very good at drafting wide receivers. Claypool has a lot of potential, might be somebody that Bill Belichick might want to grab. And then really, I don't want to be giving up any, unless it's like a really, really, really special player, I don't want to be giving up any of our first 3-round picks. We don't have that many picks to begin with. And right now, Isaiah Wynn, I'm okay with Dan Moore because he's been fine in pass protection so far. So if we're going to replace him, it's going to need to be for somebody or for a price that I'm willing to pay to go get him. So let's move on to our number 2 player today, which is CJ Henderson. And I'll be going over why he could be a fit and why he could not be a fit. But before that, I want you to let me know in the comments section, will the Steelers make a trade? This is our pinned comment for today's video. So if there's an ad break, it's a perfect opportunity to go in the comments section and type Y for yes, you think the Steelers are going to make a trade, or N for no if you don't. Okay, let's get into CJ Henderson here. The Panthers could be sellers this year with Matt Rule being fired. The offense looks terrible. They might be going for a full reset this year, and it might start with cleaning shop, which includes CJ Henderson. Henderson is pretty good. So the thing with Henderson, this is what you need to know. Very athletic, has all the tools to be a number 1 corner in this league. But he's been in the league for a while now, and he hasn't had the production. He's not disciplined, lots of penalties. Lots of big plays given up, and I'm not a huge fan of his in terms of his discipline. Now let's look at the Steelers cornerback depth chart right now. You know my feelings on this is that we need to add bodies in the Steelers cornerback room. We need more depth. We need more talent, and CJ Henderson is definitely talented. But let's look at Henderson's production throughout his career. I mean, these numbers are not very good. 16 tackles, one pass breakup, no interceptions. This is this year's stats, I should say. 1 tackle for loss and a 75% completion percentage. Now, we look at the stats of the Steelers and we see all the guys giving up high completion percentages. Do we really want to be adding another player like that? In my opinion, we really shouldn't. I don't think we should go get CJ Henderson, where, although we do need to add talent and he has a lot of that, we also need veteran experience, in my opinion, and Henderson does not have that. So let's go on to our number 3 player that we're going to break down today, Sidney Jones. Now, at cornerback, I think he is a much better option for us than CJ Henderson. I think, but before I go into why I think that he's the better fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I want to know from you guys, what should the Steelers be at the trade deadline? Do you think we should be buyers or do you think we should be sellers? In my opinion, I'm leaning towards sellers. We don't have a ton of draft capital right now, and if we're going to be going into rebuild mode next offseason, I think it makes sense to unload some guys like potentially Terrell Edmunds, potentially Chase Claypool, maybe Deontay Johnson if the price is right. But for me, I think we're going to be sellers. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Okay, Sidney Jones. Let's break him down here. He's not playing very much in Seattle. He played mostly last year, but with the ascendance of rookie cornerback Tariq Woolen in Seattle, Jones has been the odd man out. But the thing with him is that he's a very good man defender, which is something that we need. We need guys that can come in and play man defense right away. He played in that cover 4 man match system in Seattle last season and had some success. But right now he's not playing a whole lot on the outside because Seattle's actually pretty good at corner right now, and they may be willing to deal him. Now, I really think that what he brings to the table fits what Mike Tomlin wants to do on defense. Let's look at his stats from last season, which was definitely his most productive year. 57 tackles, 10 pass breakups, no interceptions, but a tackle for loss, and a 61% completion percentage isn't awful, okay? Personally, I would make a trade for Sidney Jones, but I'm not going to give up too much to go get him. I would give up a 7th-round pick. Pretty much my mentality in all this is I'm trying to save draft picks, and Sidney Jones is not really the type of player I'm willing to give up a 4th-round draft pick for. But if Seattle would be willing to take a 7th-round draft pick for Sidney Jones, I would pull the trigger today. Okay, number 4, Robert Quinn. Now, this is a big name. Lots of sacks, lots of experience, and Lord knows, with TJ Watt out of the lineup, we need some help at edge rusher. We see the depth chart right now. TJ Watt is out with that torn pectoral muscle. Alex Highsmith has been a pleasant surprise so far this year, but he's not a number 1 guy. And then Malik Reed hasn't been doing all that great, but we didn't really expect that out of him. We have Ryan Anderson, and then we got Jones there as well. But adding Quinn would be a decent addition. Now, he hasn't played very well this season. He's graded terribly. I think he's the 111th graded edge rusher by PFF right now, Pro Football Focus, and he's getting older. So, if we trade for him here, we could be buying something that's a kind of a ruined product. He could be washed. It's definitely a risk to go get him. Let's look at his numbers over the last 4 years. Pretty impressive numbers. 2019 had 11.5 sacks. 2021 last year, 18.5 sacks. He was arguably the best defensive player on the Chicago defense last season. This year, not so great. Only 6 tackles through 5 games, 1 tackle for loss, and 1 sack. So, it's possible that Robert Quinn is washed. It's possible. So, are we really going to be willing to trade a whole lot in order to get him? So, for me, I would trade Chase Claypool and a 3rd rounder. Now, you might notice that in a lot of these scenarios, I'm trading Chase Claypool. A lot of you guys know I don't like so-called Mapletron, okay? I hate that nickname for him because I'm a huge Calvin Johnson fan, and I think comparing him in any way, shape, or form, even if it's a nickname, it's not appropriate. I think he needs to be gone. His production level is not where it needs to be right now. I want him gone. Plus a third rounder is what I do for Robert Quinn. So in the comment section, name a player that you want the Steelers to trade for. Personally, like I've said before, I wouldn't mind Robert Quinn. I wouldn't mind Sidney Jones, some of these names that we're going to be bringing up here. But, at the end of the day, I think the Steelers need to add some bodies. That's for damn sure. Okay, next player is Clelin Ferrell from the Raiders. Former top 5 pick for the Raiders back in the Gruden-Mayock era. And, plain simply, I'm not a huge fan of this guy personally. He's a huge bust. The Raiders would love to find a sucker to take him. He tries to be kind of like a bull rusher, power rusher kind of guy, but he's not really all that powerful in my opinion. He's definitely not fast enough to be a speed rusher, and he's definitely not technically sound enough to be a finesse guy with his pass rush moves. So for me, he's a bull rusher that's not much of a bull. At this point, he's kind of just like a decent run stopper. You look at his career stats over 47 games, 83 tackles, 12 tackles for loss, only 8 sacks and 2 forced fumbles. Not great numbers, and personally, I just don't love the fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, what is the biggest need for the Steelers? Now, this is a burning question because the Steelers have a ton. Let me know in the comments section what you think. Personally, I think the biggest need is cornerback right now. Like offensive line, we're pass blocking fine, so I think cornerback is worse than that right now. And then linebacker, Miles Jack is fine. You guys know how I feel about Devin Bush. We need to replace Devin Bush, but we have a ton of holes in the cornerback room right now. I think personally the biggest hole in the Steelers is cornerback. Now our final name for this video, Daron Payne from the Washington Commanders, former first-round pick defensive tackle. Could definitely bring a lot of talent, and bringing him next to Cam Hayward would definitely be fun to watch. Now let's look at what he's got going on here. Payne would give the Steelers a dominant nose tackle. Now we have Montravius Adams right now, who's not fantastic. He's probably bottom 10, maybe bottom 5 nose tackle in the league. Bringing in Daron Payne would change that. He's a 3-down nose tackle who can stop the run and pressure the QB. That's big, man. If opposing offensive lines have to deal with Cam Hayward and Daron Payne, this pass rush could be revitalized, especially up the middle. So this is definitely something where I would be considering giving the Commanders a call and seeing what the price is for Daron Payne. I'm not sure. Let's look at our defensive line right now, how it sits now. We got Cameron Hayward, obviously, as our first defensive lineman. Ogunjobi, who's hurt currently, is our other starter usually. And then Montravius Adams got recently promoted to the nose tackle starter. It would certainly make sense to bring in a guy like Daron Payne, but I think personally it's going to be a pretty expensive get. It's going to have to be like a second rounder plus a receiver. We might have to give up Deontay Johnson in order to get him. So personally, I don't think that's a great fit. So here's the thing, guys. This is the time in the show where I ask you to go follow me on Twitter. If you love film analysis, specifically Steelers film analysis on Kenny Pickett, that's what I put on my Twitter, okay? I'm going to be going over the film tonight, actually, and I'm probably going to be putting up a video tonight about Kenny Pickett and what I see from him in the Bills game. So I do that almost every Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So if you like that sort of stuff, go follow me on Twitter. I also live tweet every single Steelers game, and I have a bunch of Steelers news, all these other things on my Twitter account. So if you want additional Steelers content from me, Jack Sperry, go follow me on Twitter. I am at Jack_Sperry. Thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate you, Steeler Nation. And until next time, peace.